Greetings, everyone. This is Ehav Ever from the Chronicles of Ehav Ever, and today's topic is what is the Torah's core message? Now, this topic came from a question or an issue that was brought up in, again, a forum that I sometimes take part in. And one of the issues that was brought up is someone who doesn't read Hebrew, who's not Jewish, and who doesn't really have any expert level or any real contact, I would say, with Jewish text or even Jewish people for the most part, in terms of knowing exactly what the Torah is and what it isn't, and what exactly is the purpose of the Torah, made a claim that essentially was incorrect about the Torah's purpose and its, if you will, its goal or its core message. Now, the difficulty this problem this person has with this is mainly because of the fact that, like I said before, they don't know the language, they don't know the culture they're even talking about. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining exactly what is the core message of the Torah. Because it's very clear to those who actually study it in Hebrew, and it's very clear to those who actually live in a Jewish context. But it may not be so clear to someone who doesn't have those things. So the first step is to understand the meaning of the term, the name, or the word Torah. What does it mean itself? Because that in itself answers the question initially. So first of all, the word Torah comes from the three-letter root, which is Yud Resh He. This is from right to left, because Hebrew goes from right to left. Yud Resh He is what's called a root, a shoresh in Hebrew. And the shoresh is what you basically, what we in Jewish culture in ancient times, you would build all words off of a three-letter root. So knowing the three-letter root helps you know in different contexts what different words mean when those words come from this three-letter root or are based on the three-letter root. And essentially what this three-letter root basically means is instruction, teaching, or hitting a target. So one form of the word is used to, basically mean instruction. Another form of the word is used for teaching. Another form of the word is used for, like, if someone was shooting an arrow to hit a target. And those three things give you the basic basis of what the Torah is. It's the instruction, teaching, and the ability to hit a certain target for the Jewish people. So whenever you hear me use the word Torath Moshe, I've explained this in other videos, but essentially what it means is the Torah of Moshe. Moshe being what you would say in English, Moses. So the Torah of Moses is the teaching of Moses, the instruction of Moses, or the instructions that Moses gave to help the Jewish people hit the target. So the question could then be brought up, what exactly is that target that the Jewish people are supposed to hit? Or, what exactly is this instruction? What exactly is its purpose? What is its core message? So when looking through the Torah, essentially the core message, or, there's a lot of messages, but one of the core messages that is there, the main one, is that what is mentioned in the book of Devarim, or Sefer Devarim, where it mentions the fact that Ushmartem et divrei habrith hazot wa'asitam otam lama'an tiskalu et kol asher te'asun. And what that basically means, and this is the top part that you see there with the red brackets and the green brackets, what it essentially means is that by doing the Torah that was given, there's a connection that's made between the people of Israel and the creator of all things, Hashem. And by the people of Israel doing the Torah, it allows us to have the logic that we need in order to maintain ourselves in the land of Israel, as well as if there were ever an exile to happen, which has happened before, that we have the ability to survive those exiles. So it would almost be like saying that the Torah's purpose is to give the Jewish people the logic through the study of the text, as well as the debate about the text, the arguments about the text that we have, the study of the language itself, the stories that are in the Torah. They're not just stories that are put in there just to say, well, this is your history, okay, that's it. That every story, every word, every letter is there for a specific reason that is in dealing with instruction. So for example, if you look at any of the stories where you say, okay, well, why did this person make this decision? That was a bad decision. Well, there's instruction that comes along with that, meaning that by analyzing it, the Jewish people are able to become a logical people using that logic to survive. So, for example, any thing that seems like just a small story that's there for some innocuous reason, it's not there for any innocuous reason. It's there for a specific reason to provide instruction. Now, further to that, in the next part of the slide, in the middle, basically it says, "V'lishmor la'asot et kol divrei Torah hazot," and that's in the red brackets. That essentially, the Jewish people will keep to do the Torah that Hashem gave. Ki hu chaim u'davar hazeh ta'arichu yamim ala ha'adama asher atem avorim et ha'yarden shama l'rishto. So essentially, the idea here is that when the promises made by the Creator of all things to the Jewish people, to the Israeli people, to our ancestors, was that we would inherit the land of Israel, the land of Canaan, But as a part of that, in order to maintain ourselves in the land of Canaan, the Torah was the, if you will, the logic as well as the society and the culture that was supposed to be built in the land of Canaan in order for it to be made into the land of Israel, the land of Eretz Yisrael, as we say in Hebrew. So in order for the Jewish people to survive and maintain themselves in the land of Israel at those times and into the future, the Torah would have to be kept properly. And when that was not the case, there was exile. And we're told that eventually at some point in the future that, there'd be a return, which actually we see is happening now. But at some point there would be a leader who, would be a part of a process once the Jewish people decide that the Torah is the way that things should be done in the land of Israel, that a leader would rise up to lead people here in Israel, lead all of us, in a way so that the Torah could be kept perfectly without there being more exiles, with the land, prospering and the world prospering because of it. But again, the message that's given here is, if you want to call it a message, again, the main reason the Torah was given is said that because of the fact that the Jewish people accepted it, our ancestors accepted it, and those of us who keep the Torah continuously accept it, but also because of the fact that it builds up a certain logic that is necessary for the Jewish people and has given us the ability to survive, several exiles, persecutions, pogroms, inquisitions, near mass extinction of the Jewish people, or the attempts of it, and that's the basic core principles that were given because it's the instruction of the Jewish people that Hashem gave. Now, next to this, one of the questions that this person was bringing up was, well, who exactly is it for? Well, the Torah makes it very clear it's for Bnei Yisrael. Now, the word Bnei Yisrael means like descendants of, children of Yisrael. So who is Yisrael? Yisrael was a man by the name of Yaakov ben Yitzchok, or in English you would call him Jacob, but his actual name was Yaakov, and his father's name was Yitzchok, so he would have been known as Yaakov ben Yitzchok ben Avraham, meaning that the man named Avraham was his grandfather, his father was Yitzchok. Now, if you look at this text here in the green, what it says is, of course, what I just mentioned, that this instruction is for Bnei Yisrael. And then later in the red brackets, what it says, Torah Tzivolon Umashem Morashat Geilat Yaakov. So essentially that the Torah is for the Kielat Yaakov. Now, Kielat Yaakov basically means like in English people say the congregation of Yaakov, but generally it's meaning the group, the gathering of Yaakov. So Yaakov, meaning that his descendants, as well as anyone who has gone through the proper conversion process to the Torah. And I've talked about other videos what that means. It isn't just like, you show up and say, hey, I want to join you guys and believe A, B, C, and D, and that's it. That there's a process involved in it. But essentially, what the Torah is very clear that this is the instruction for the Jewish people, for Bnei Yisrael, and also it's the inheritance of the people, who are part of Kielat Yaakov. So then a person could still ask, well, how do you know this? Where are you getting this from? Well, basically from every text that has existed in the Hebrew language and in Aramaic for more than like about 2,000, 300,000 years. So essentially, it doesn't matter if you're talking about the Talmud, doesn't matter if you're talking about Rav Se'adi Gaon, doesn't matter if you're talking about Ibn Ezra, Rambam, Ramban, Rashi, it doesn't matter where in the Jewish world you go. If you look up a text in the Hebrew language, it makes it very clear that the core message, involves the idea that Hashem, the creator of all things, gave the Jewish people the Torah in order to be an instruction, in order to be a way to hit the target, so to speak, for the Jewish people. So the Rambam, I think, basically, did one of the most well-known, kind of like, if you will, summaries of the basis or the foundations of the Torah. And he did this basically in his commentary on the Mishnah. Now, the thing that one has to understand is that often when people hear about this, they often hear about it called the 13 Principles of Faith, but the Rambam didn't call it that. Essentially, the best translation, at least into Hebrew, for example, and into English, would be the, Shlosh Ikare Toratenu. So essentially, that translates into the 13 foundations of the Torah, of our Torah. And essentially what the Rambam did was he basically went through and kind of gave a list of the kind of foundations that would basically make someone a part of the Jewish nation. And that if a person says, okay, I don't agree with any one of these, essentially that person is not part of the Jewish nation in a sense. And that's the way the Rambam, basically put it together. And there's other variations that other leaders of the Jewish people have come up with besides what the Rambam wrote. But all of them essentially have kind of the main basis. They're all like similar for the most part. There may be just either more detail, less detail that someone may give. But starting off, the first thing he mentions is that the Mitziot of Borei Ishtabak. So the first thing he mentions as one of the foundations, or the first step in it, is that there is a source of creation, that there's something that created everything. And essentially that's Hashem. And then he also, dealt with the fact that Hashem is like one and not made up into parts, and is a unity, meaning that all the information and knowledge of Hashem is unified within Hashem, and there's no separations in Hashem. And also he basically, listed out that Hashem, had no body or no physical form, and that Hashem preceded all things. So this is, the first four of the foundation, but it's not like all in all. So it isn't like this is like the message of the Torah by itself, because all of these things here were already known to the Jewish people before the Torah was even given. So then one of the other things the Rambam mentions is that essentially the creator of all things controls all things, meaning that there is no situation where someone may say, okay, well, who created Hashem? Well, Hashem is the source of all creation, meaning that there is no such thing as creation because outside of Hashem, because Hashem created the idea of creation and then created creation itself. So there would be nothing preceding. Also, Hashem created time. So before time was created, there was no such thing as past, present, and future, and Hashem does not exist within time. So for example, then the next thing is what's called Nuvua, the fact that Hashem has created a situation where people can, the Jewish people can be connected to Hashem in a certain way, and that the highest level of Nuvua was that of Moshe Rabbeinu, meaning Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu had the connection to Hashem where he didn't have to be prepared for it, that at any point he could be connected to Hashem and receive Nuvua from Hashem, and that he was basically the highest of all people in history, and including the future Mashiach, the future Davidic king. And the next thing is that the Torah came min Hashemayim, meaning that it comes directly from Hashem. The written Torah and the oral Torah are from Hashem, and that it's not like someone made up this part of it or that part of it, and that the Torah would never be done away with. So essentially the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu received at Mount Sinai, and also later on before he passed away, is the Torah that will be here forever. And that essentially Hashem has a full knowledge of the things he created, including people and what we do and what we don't do and what we hide and we, keep to ourselves and what we publish. So essentially also that Hashem, is basically, has created a scenario where you kind of get out of life what you want and you get out of the next world what you want, meaning that if a person wants to walk away from, any kind of logic of the Creator and separate himself from the Creator, then you can receive that. And one of the ideas, I've talked about this in another video, is that essentially Hashem has created a reality where if a person decides, I don't want any part in the world to come, I want everything right now, okay, well, you can have that right now depending on your situation. Then the next thing is that, that there is a coming time where there will be a future Jewish leader of the Israeli people here in Israel who will bring about a return to the Torah-based kingdom that once existed and was almost, to the level it should have been in the land of Israel again. And then the last thing being that there, is an eventual return of those Jews and of those Israelis who've passed away to the land of the living, if you will. So the Rambam explains that these are the complete foundations of the Torah. There is no situation where only, the belief in Hashem is the foundation and there's nothing else. The Torah was given as an instruction to basically lead the Jewish people in all of these areas I just mentioned. And there's other formulations, like I mentioned before, that other leaders of the Jewish people have come up with that are similar to, but just a little bit different in variances from what the Rambam mentioned here. So this is what's important to know, that this is the foundation of the Torah. And essentially the instruction of the Jewish people so that we would know and be able to manage ourselves within the reality that the Creator created in the land of Israel. And, under the circumstance that there was an exile or there was, a difficulty amongst the Jewish people, that we would know how to manage ourselves. So this is Ehav Ever from the Chronicles of Ehav Ever, and just going through a quick video, as quick as possible, about what the foundations of the Torah are and what is the core message of the Torah. That, again, the instruction of the Torah is for the Jewish people, and it is to help the Jewish people excel and create a logic that will establish ourselves in the land of Israel and under circumstances that are not the best of circumstances. So take care and bye.